Hello guys, today we will talk about login framework. So when we are working with our code or especially preparing production ready solution, we need to make sure that we have some login framework in place, which is actually will allow us to understand what kind of errors we have through the life cycle of our application, what kind of issues we have for integrations and so on and so forth. So first tool which we could think of, it might be system debug for us then to take a look into logs. But at this moment, to put tons of the debug logs everywhere on the code is actually anti-pattern, and it's actually slow down the transaction, right? Because we have to prepare everything, we need to log it into the system. So also it's like not really easy then to go through all these debug logs, try to find out required information because it's require a lot of analysis to be done. Right, and there are no any kind of centralized search where you could just take a look, like for which user what happens, and so on and so forth. Right, it's too many, like problems to actually use it. Right, and Salesforce highly not recommends to use system debugs in the production ready code. So what should be the proper architecture? So as a part of the proper architecture, it's good to have a big object or custom object where we are logging everything which is related to the system lifecycle. So we could create on that object fields like a message, context, class name, stack trace, transaction ID, whatever, right? Information that we are looking for. It might be user ID, also log type, like is it a warning, is it an error, is it just info? If we would like to log, for example, integration details. So for this, we need to create something where we will be able to store it, right? Because once we have it's in the form of big object, or custom object, right? On top of it, we could apply something, some source, some list view, like and reporting and so on. So actual login framework, right? If you'll talk about login frameworks, there should be some separate class, right? And when we're using that class, there should be a function which should allow us to log our specific issue or log message, right? Accordingly to the field that we just created. And when we have it, we need to also make sure that that class, like when it's trying to perform a DML, for inserting it into the database, that it will work in a synchronous manner. So we need to do it to avoid have influence of that class on any kind of synchronous transactions, right? And on the limits. Because if let's imagine we are doing callout to log something, we are doing DML to log something, then we have a callouter prior to it, right? So there might be issues because of it. So then always a best practice here is to make it as a synchronous process. It might be queuable, it might be platform event or wherever, right? What is the technique you will decide to use? But always put the logic for that class, which is will perform DML, into a synchronous code. So then what we have is we have a possibility for us to use also Salesforce events, because Salesforce have its own monitoring for platform events, right, where we could track performance and activity on the platform level. Then what we could do else is we could create a dashboard based on our object, right, and on that dashboard we could for example, put charts which will allow us to identify which errors are, like the most common for our project, and for example, put some tech debt in order to fix them. Also, we could put an alert on top of it. There might be some specific messages sent to specific user if there will be some fatal errors for the application. So all this kind of stuff will actually increase, the way how we actually react to different kind of issues on the production, and how we actually log them, and how we could review them later.